Welcome in to another episode of the My Two Bits Gators Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, or one of your hosts, Ben's, and I have with me my other host, Randy. How you doing tonight, Randy? How you feeling? Temperature getting better up there?
Temperature's getting real good, man. This morning was in the 50s. Tonight's going to be in the low 60s, high 50s again. Feels great.
I'm jealous. We're not getting that good of weather here. How you feel about this weekend? It was great seeing you. Really enjoyed the game. How are you feeling on this Monday evening after a what I would call a pretty decent win?
Decent win. We did our job. We avenged last year's loss. And so when you look at the things that we're going to talk about and, unfold in the next hour and change, I think it's going to be a good overall. But again, going back to, remember that comment we made weeks back as far as you win the games you're supposed to win?
Yep.
We did it and move on. The box is checked. Had to tighten up on a few things, but hopefully this week we'll get a good week of practice in. We'll change our attack going away, and it'll be a good week again of Florida football.
Absolutely. Here's to it. Let's hope that road showing looks a little better, but we'll obviously get to that later. So just to start us off here, just always we go through our mission, our vision, our agenda for the pod. So here on My Two Bits, our mission is to provide you factual analysis of all things Gator football. Our vision is to have unfiltered conversation around the product on the field, as well as recruiting and overall coaching decisions. Our analysis will be based on review of film, and while we will express opinion, that opinion should always be based in some type of fact. We will also evaluate strategy and tactics from the game, as well as our observation of player personnel decisions and on-field execution. So for our agenda, we have several different segments that we'll go through here. We'll start off with the exciting plays segment we call Oh My, in honor of Mr. Mick Huber. We'll then go on to our offensive segment. We call that the Chomp segment, see how we chomped during the week. Then we go on to our defensive review. We call that one Gator Bait. And then we go to our visor throw segment, which is going to be our beefs, our complaints of the week, and what we'd like to see done differently going forward. We'll then talk briefly, just very high level, over the recruiting in our hatchling segment. And then we'll talk about some team culture with Pride of the Sunshine. It's getting to be a pretty cool segment that we're really looking forward to bringing to you tonight. I think Randy's got something a little extra there, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll then do an officiating review, which is going to be real interesting this week, and move back, you suck. And then we will wrap things up. We'll kind of go over where we feel like the team is at this point in the season, where we're going from here, what we'd like to see, as far as things going forward in the next game and those beyond. We'll then play a little game we call Keep It or Pitch It. We do this each week. We kind of keep score as the season goes. We'll update you on how last week's went, and then 3 more points for this week. And then lastly, we'll wrap things up just with our sign off. So with that, let's get it started with the Oh My, and talk to me about the exciting plays you saw in Gainesville this weekend, buddy.
All right, my man. But yeah, to echo what you said earlier, I felt the same way. Really good seeing you and the family. That was great. Got a chance to spend a little bit of time. So I tell you what, on the Oh My section, as much as I'd like to say there are a lot of plays, for me, it was just business as usual this week. Or on Saturday. So the 2 things I will point out that were an oh my in my book is Mr. Searcy with a nice strip fumble, forced fumble in the second quarter.
Yes, indeed.
That is something when I look at, and obviously they had to replay, had to review the play, go figure. Really good technique, tying him up, but in addition to that, where his hands was to get access to the football. I feel like a lot of players don't put themselves in a good position to do that, and he did. And not to mention, when was the last time we got a strip like that we recovered the ball? So that was great to see. Love the activity. Love to see how we pounced on it and were able to capitalize on that opportunity. The other one that I thought was an oh my, and he did it again, this time with 2 hands, not 1 hand, but on the Gators' 7th possession of the third quarter was 4th and 2. And, simple in route. Ricky comes in on a slant. Ball's thrown behind him. It was a bullet by Graham. And he just went back and said, and sucked it in and first down and went about the business. So Love the fact that, and see, it's funny too, because we had we've had probably 2 or 3 passes this year that have gone like that, and they bounced off a receiver. Obviously, Graham has had 2 picks because of it. Graham has not had an outright pick this year, just
Nope,
for the
he is
record.
not.
So it was really good to see Ricky range back, square up, get that ball. And so I thought that was really good, because that obviously perpetuated that drive, led to a score. So that's good there. So those are my 2 big oh my's for the game. And then outside of that, I know this is, I'll add a third one in there. And this third one for me was on the defensive side. So it was later on in the game, and basically it was a sense of a massive, massive tackle. Vandy's 10th or 11th possession, right? Mr. Moten, I know you were high on him coming in, but he had a when I say a massive tackle, I mean, just push this kid back on 3rd and 7 to force a really good punt.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen a strong one-on-one straight up tackle like that. We've had a couple of good ones. Scooby's had some good ones. He's had, some really good tackles this year. Obviously, when you look at the edge and kind of what he's doing and what he's ranging to, but what Moten did, just squared him up and just sat him back, I thought was phenomenal. So that oh my goes on the defensive side. Those are my 3 oh my's. That's all I had this Saturday. What you got, B?
It's interesting. First of all, I agree with everything you got there, and just talking about kind of safety play and safeties having hits, right? Bryce Thornton actually had a pretty gnarly hit too on a completion. It was way downfield, so you didn't think as much of it, but he walloped a guy pretty good. And it is good to see those safeties getting back to hitting a little harder. You mentioned I was high on Moten coming into the season. I was hearing good things coming out of camp, but really, when you look at it, he is not well rated so far this year, and really probably not the guy we want starting. So I'm glad he did make that tackle. But he hasn't turned out to be the guy I thought he might be. I missed a little on that one for sure. But I think we've hit on some others that have been really good. So I actually have a bunch, which is interesting, because to your point, I could have had none. There was nothing in this game that was like, okay, this has to be my, right? This unbelievable play, this great effort, everything else. There really weren't any. So instead of saying I didn't have any, I picked a bunch, because there were actually quite a few that I think are worth mentioning. I'll be quick on all of them, because I do have actually 6 of them. I have 6 of them.
Look at you.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm probably going a little overkill, but I'll run through them pretty quick. So first one is Trey Wilson on the sweep for the TD. Love seeing him back in the game. Love seeing the impact that he had overall in the game. That play was nothing exceptional other than just showing off his ridiculous speed in getting to that edge and just basically walking into the end zone, getting around those blocks on that little pop pass. I mean, the kid is just special. I love that he's back. I hope he can stay healthy. We're going to need him. We're going to need him, because this offense is different when he's in there. This offense is definitely different when he's in there. And the other person who makes this offense different is another one of my call-outs, which is now Arliss Boardingham. Now, I did say preseason that I wanted to see what he could do, and man, did he show up. Co-freshman of the week, just announced this afternoon, co-SEC freshman of the week. So that's a pretty cool deal. And that 3rd down conversion in particular is the play I'm going to call out. Big 3rd and 18, right? We would have had to settle for another field goal at best. He catches the ball about 10 yards short of the 1st down line, and then just dump trucks like 4 guys on his way to the 1st down, plus some. I mean, phenomenal effort. The guy is really hard to bring down. He's physical. He's strong. He's quick enough to beat, linebackers trying to cover him out of the tight end spot. He's big enough to be a matchup nightmare for corners or safeties. I love him. I think we've got a great future. Looking forward to him. He's only a redshirt freshman, of course. I mean, really good stuff there. So that's one that I really wanted to take a minute and call out. The other ones that I have, Ricky TD. Yeah, absolutely. The Ricky TD, not because of anything special Ricky did, or even because this play was that special. I'm talking about on the end around. I love the play call. We actually called the same play later in the game, and it worked really well also. Really nice deception on that play. It's a fake handoff to the back, and then Mertz spins around and throws a little backwards pitch to Ricky. The timing on it's got to be perfect, and they just nail it. You can tell they've really worked on it in practice. And it was spot on both times, and both times it went for a big gain. So I'm a big fan of that play call. That's not something I've seen before out of this offense. Really liked it. Really was nice to see some creativity, and that's a theme that I think we'll talk a little about as we go through this. I had the Cersei stripping of the fumble. I thought it was also impressive that he was tackling a receiver, and he's a D lineman, and he's making that strip. That's usually not something you see. They're used to maybe stripping running backs if they can, but really D linemen not known for really stripping anybody but maybe a quarterback, right?
Right.
So I was pretty impressed by that. Also have a Jalen Kimber pass breakup on a great deep ball early in the third. This ball was thrown perfectly. The receiver was going
Oh,
to catch
yeah.
it. If Kimber did not get his hand in there, that was another big completion that this team would have had, but it was defended perfectly. Loving Jalen. He's playing fantastic football. Love seeing it. And then the last one I've got, and this is again for a different reason than the play itself, but the last play of the third quarter, big run, 43-yard run for Treyon Webb. Love this for our future. That guy gets out of his, off his spot, if you will, and into his first step, lightning quick. He might be quicker to that first step than Trevor is. I will throw that out there. He is nasty quick coming out of it. He looked explosive in this game, being there, especially watching it live. I feel like the camera sometimes doesn't do that justice. Man, he looked fast. Really, really liked seeing that. Love what it means for what we have in the future because, yet again, a true freshman, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
with that said, that's all I've got for those. Again, I know I had quite a few, but I really think that, again, for various different reasons, I found a reason that I felt like they should be a part of the Oh My segment. So there you go. So moving on, let's talk a little chomp and some offense. So first things first, we have some stats we go over every game. Now, we were able to do something a little different with them this week. Well, at least with one of them. So I'll get to that in a second. But first, again, we use the NFL QBR rating, which goes from 0 to 153.8. Anything over 100 is good. Again, as I've said before, anything over 120 is real good. Mertz, yet again, QBR 123.84. So despite the fact that we didn't get any deep balls in this game, we did try a couple. Even without that, still a 123.84 rating, which is just beyond solid. Another 80+% completion game. Just phenomenal stuff. Really, really impressive to see how consistent, how solid Mertz has been. Again, what he's being asked to do may not be what everybody wants to see, but having said that, he's doing what he's asked to do really well. And then our yards per carry, which is our other stat we look at for each game, again, for our offense. Now, what we did this week, we were able to get out the sack yardage. So before, we've just taken out some team yardage, but we haven't necessarily been able to get out the sack yardage. We got that out on both sides of the ball. So for both us and Vandy, we were able to take out those yards. And our yards per carry came out without sack yardage to 8.85 yards per carry, which is pretty darn good. You will take almost a 9-yard per carry average any day of the week, especially in an SEC game, even if it is Vandy. So really, really glad to see that. Thought that was a really good number for us. Yeah, absolutely. As far as the rest of this goes, I think it's important that we come to a realization that, at least for this year, this is what the offense is. I, like a lot of other people, would have liked to see a couple more deep attempts. But again, we went for them a few times, and a couple times they couldn't even get thrown because Mertz got pressured or sacked too quickly. He couldn't even do it, or the guys weren't open, which we've talked about, right? But at the end of the day, this offense being effective, it's going to be a long, sustained drive, chunk yardage coming in the form of 15 to 20, not 60 to 70. It's just not going to happen. And not with any consistency. I'm not going to say it never will, right? We've seen a couple hit, but it's just not going to be consistently a big play offense. Not this year anyway. It's just not set up that way. And I think we really all need to accept that as Gator fans and know that that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. A consistent offense, right? If it's executed properly, right? And we've seen what happens when it is, and we've seen when it happens when it isn't, right? There's definitely two sides to that coin. When we don't execute well and you don't have the ability to make that big play to kind of catch you up, yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. It presents difficulty at times. But I think it's important that we recognize things for what they are and realize that this can still be effective in what we're doing here. Solid play from the O-line in the run game, especially not having Kingsley or Barber. I thought Slaughter was actually quite good. He graded out quite well on Pro Football Focus, which is, not necessarily a defining metric, but still something that we can, certainly take a look at. Really, really solid play as far as that goes. Now, some of the pass blocking, yeah, a little suspect sometimes. Now, I know both Billy and Graham said that he held the ball too long at times. I didn't really feel like he held the ball too long. I've seen quarterbacks that hold the ball too long. Not in my opinion. Now, maybe if the play design called for something else, I don't know that, right? But just really, really didn't think that was on Burt's. Felt like that was more on pass blocking, right? Or pressures that were being brought or whatever the case may be. So anyway, really like the O-line's run blocking, though. Thought it was very, very solid. Overall, getting over 200 yards on the ground. So Treon Webb, I already mentioned him. Loved his play. Looks so explosive when he takes the ball. As much as Montrell is solid, that's probably what he lacks, is that real explosiveness, right? He always hits the right gap. He always, makes the right decision as far as things go in the game, but he's not always as solid. Now, he looked a lot more physical this game. I liked seeing that from Montrell's side of things, but he doesn't have that burst that both Etienne and Treon have. They're really, really good. Now it's going to get real fun. We're talking about Trevor and Treon and Travis, and yeah, it's going to get.
Whoa.
We're going to throw a lot of teas out there, man. Wait till next year. It's going to be great. But it's all good. It's all good. Speaking of teas, welcome back, Trey.
Hey.
Trey Wilson, 8 catches for 64 yards. Looking just as shifty as usual, all kinds of moves. Made the first guy miss, I think, 100% of the time. The guy's just ridiculous. I mean, I love him. I'm so excited that he's going to be here for another 2 years. Love that at a minimum, but probably only 2 because I'm pretty sure he's going pro. He's pretty special looking kid. Really, really looks good. I would like to see him get something other than the pop pass or the wide receiver screen, though. We threw a couple to him out in the flat. Where he was actually, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 yards down the field and then got the ball in motion. I'd like to see some more of that. I'm not saying he's got to be the deep threat, right? That's not necessarily his game. He doesn't have the height for it. He's a little small, right? But let's find other ways to get him in space besides just a wide receiver screen or a pop pass, right? Let's work on that. And then last thing, I already kind of made mention of this, some more creative play calling. A lot of talk about this. Really, definitely some stuff we hadn't seen before, right? I already talked about the reverse to, it's kind of a reverse to Ricky. It's like a reverse jet sweep, right? And then I loved Arliss getting more in the game, right? Boardingham, not just because of his performance, but a lot of the play calls that were designed to go to him were really, really good. Like they were really impressive. Some stuff that we have not seen, and just to be able to get him involved more, it gives you another level to that passing game. Defenses are going to have to respect. They're going to have to start guarding that. Vandy didn't guard it at all, right? Because they were like, what's this? Florida doesn't throw to the tight end, right? We did this game, buddy. And when you develop those different levels and you put threats right at every level, whether it's the screen to Trey, the mid-range kind of rolling out there off of Arliss, or then the deep ball, all of a sudden that deep ball is harder to cover because you have to pay attention to those other levels. And that's actually something that I could really see developing and actually making this offense a lot more effective with some of those big plays. So really, really liked seeing that. First time I'll kind of give a little tip of the hat to Billy on some stuff, because he really did do some things in this game that I was happy to see. So that was really nice. So what you got for Chomp there, bud?
Wow. First of all, I'm going to ask you something.
Yep.
Are you feeling okay?
Yeah. Why?
Okay. I'm just
a little fired up, but yeah.
A tip of the hat to Billy, the play calling, the creativity. I'm like, what?
Oh, now I get it. Yeah. That's definitely not things I'm typically saying. That's fair.
Was it that green drink you drank on Saturday? Is it still have its lingering effects? I mean, okay, all right. No, I mean, I dig it. I know we've had our issues. I know we've vented, we've steamed profusely, right? But okay, my man showing some patience, some poise. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Great points across the board. Great points across the board. I'm gonna shout out a couple of others. When you look at our scoring drives, 9 plays, 89 yards, 7 plays, 61 yards, 8 plays, 49 yards, 14 plays, 91 yards,
Yeah, that's a good one.
north of 7 minutes.
Yep, that's a good
Right?
one.
7 plays, 69 yards, and of course, because of great field position, 4 plays, 36 yards. Uh, Billy talks about complementary football. So if we're doing this the right way, we're having long drives, the defense gets a breather. The offense is in rhythm. Keyword rhythm. So if we can do this the right way and play this sustainable brand, there's Beamer ball and now we got Billy ball, right? So if we can do this the right way, I have a feeling that with the right personnel and with the system and the philosophies bought in, it's taken some time. It's taken some time, but guess what? I think we're closer than people realize. I really do. Mertz, whole Graham cracker, right? I know Scooby's got snacks and Graham's got a cracker. So Graham, 80% completion percentage on the season, 140 of 175. Behind Bo Nix. Bo Nix is 131 out of 163. Mertz's percentage, 0.8000. Bo Nix's percentage, 0.804. Are you kidding me?
Wow, that's pretty
Right there,
amazing.
right? Right there. Remember how in the season preview we talked about the offense and the defense where we think they're going to rank and things like that? Right now, from a passing offense standpoint, number 50th in the nation with 200, just under 257 yards a game. Now, again, 50th, you say, it's 50th, but at the same time, oh, it's 50th, especially with the inconsistencies that we've had, right? So I think that's good. Believe it or not, number 20 in the nation, according to NCAAstat.com, number 20 in passing efficiency is Mr. Mertz.
Wow,
Mr.
nice.
Nix, yeah, Mr. Nix, as mentioned before, he's number 6. And Mr.
Yep.
Caleb Williams out of USC, number
Yeah.
1, right?
Yeah, no surprise there.
No surprise there. But to know that Graham's in top 20, guess what? I'll take that. I'll take that all day long for where
All
he's at.
day.
Right? Bingo. I want to shout out Trey Smack. I know technically it's special teams, but this is still points. It's offense. Trey Smack, 100%. Please don't let me jinx him, Gator Nation. I'm sorry if I jinx him.
Be careful.
He's 100%. He's 100% on the season. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. He's tied with 4 other kickers in the nation. 100%. Really cool.
Love it. Love it.
Red zone offense, 6 for 6 this past Saturday. 6 for 6, believe it or not, right?
Yep.
On the year, the Gators are 24 of 26 for a 92.3% red zone scoring percentage, which means they are tied for number 21 in the nation.
As much as we complain about red zone play calling, and yet, yeah, I saw that stat and I was like, well, I'm kind of going to have to eat my words, aren't I?
You ate them, I ate them. I think a lot of people are eating them, right? And so that is what it is. Time of possession. This is kind of cool. About 34 minutes a game. Number 4 in FBS, number 1 in the SEC.
Wow.
Interesting for time of possession, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it speaks to those long drives.
It's good though, because that's what he wants to accomplish, right? That's Billy's goal.
That is.
And I think that's a good thing. And again, to our advantage with these new clock rules, as long as we don't get way behind.
Yep.
That's the key.
So really good there. 71 plays on Saturday. 70. We got into the 70s. No, it's not quite a Tennessee offense, but 71 plays. We're averaging north of 65 for the season. That's not terrible, folks. We just need to, again, tighten down the screws on a couple things.
Yep.
Some shakeups on the offensive line, right? So part of this is giving Graham time. Obviously, Graham took a couple of shots in this game that we cringed a little bit, right?
Yeah, really cringed when he left the game, but yeah.
Right. So that's the thing. Damian George, right? He slid over, right, from right tackle to left. We have a Lindell Houston sighting, right? Right. He comes into the right side. Cameron Waits, right, playing in that kind of sweet.
Cam Waits coming back from an Achilles tear in January. Crazy.
An Achilles tear, people, an Achilles tear that sidelines most athletes over a year. Yes, obviously Mr. Rogers is dealing with that right now over there in New York. So, and then Jake Slaughter, you mentioned it earlier, B. I think hats off to him as well. He really did a solid job. He did what he could do, but at the end of the day, when you look at his ability, when you look at the things that he did, at least it wasn't as a detriment. He might have been neutral, or a little bit positive as far as his impact on the field, but again, definitely not negative.
Not at all. Not at all. Definite improvement from his previous showings. I mean, he got a little better the last game he played in against Charlotte. He looked a little better. He looked significantly better to me in this game as far as a lot of the things that we were seeing. I thought it was good.
Bingo. And then outside of that, man, Arliss Boardingham. What an that sounds like a Harvard, Princeton, like, oh yes, we've enrolled Arliss Boardingham for the fall semester.
I love it. I love it.
Look at this Cali dude, and it's funny. What I think is interesting is Napier. When he was over at Louisiana, he circled Montrell Johnson's number. Said, okay, number 25. He's a dude. He's a guy. He said the same thing about Arliss.
Yep.
Same thing about it. And so in our section up there in the stadium, we started an Arliss chant, which was kind of, I don't think he heard it, but it was just good. What a day, man.
Nice.
7 targets, 7 receptions, 99 yards, an explosive play of 23 yards. And when you look at what Arliss did, so explosive play of 23, Johnson explosive run of 34, Webb an explosive run of 43.
Yep.
3 awesome explosive plays, 3 other plays that were 19, 18, and 16 yards. Again, just want to see a little bit more on the explosive play side, but outside of that, really happy to see the ball being distributed. Arliss is a bona fide weapon. Trey, of course, Twitchy Trey back in there doing his thing. And then the other thing is, I would have loved to see Andy Jean get the ball a little bit more, but maybe it's one of those things where his time is coming. His time is coming. So either way, the Chomp segment for me, that's my wrap up. Overall, I really can't. Here's the thing. It's really hard to complain about a win, right? And doing your job, doing the things you're supposed to do. 38-14. Overall, not bad Gators.
Yes, sir. Agreed. I think you're spot on all that stuff. Really like that synopsis. I thought that was really good. All right, so let's move it along. Let's hit up the defense. Gator Bait, talk to me. What you got?
Yeah, man. So Gator Bait, you know what? This is tough because of what the defense has done, and the defense, I think they had something to prove coming back from Kentucky, right? So all I'll say is giving up 3 explosive plays. Now, when you look at Vandy's total yardage, right? 340 yards. So Vandy gave up, or we gave up 340 to Vandy. There are 3 big explosive plays, okay? 85 yards.
Which was fluky. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We will. 52 yards.
Yeah.
Okay. 27 yards.
And see, 27 yards to me, I mean, I know it defines as an explosive because it's over 20 or over 25 or however that stat's defined. But 27 yards, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a chunk, but that's not explosive in my opinion. I mean, Montrell had like 4 runs that long, and I didn't think any of them were that explosive.
Yep. And watch this, another 16-yard run. By the time you take let's just say we take 2 or 3 of those off the board, this defense holds another offense to under 200 yards. So it was what it is. I know we're going to get to that play with Marshall. We'll get there. But at the end of the day, after this game, a lot of yardage given up. It is what it is. But bouncing back from Kentucky, they did a lot of things well. So still, I know it sounds hard to say, Gator Nation, but still a top 20 defense in the nation. Number 16 at 286.5 yards per game. Georgia and that dreaded defense, they're only 11. They're within reach, right there. When you look at our third down defense, I'm not sure if most people know this, but third down defense, number 9 in the nation, 18 of 68 for 26.5%. Hey, very good.
Really good.
I'd say that's
Really,
pretty
really
solid.
good.
Tied for number 5 with 2 blocks. There are 2 block kicks through 6 games. That's fine, no problem there. And then I know again, punting is I know special teams, but punting can be really, really good defense, because I tell you what, when you look at from a punting standpoint, what Crawshaw has done, net punting is number 7 in the nation at 43.89 yards per punt. People might not know this. Vandy, number 1 punter in the nation.
Yep.
At 47 yards. They're both Australian. They both have mustaches, whatever. But the thing that, yeah, but the thing that people don't realize, I think Jeremy had his best game ever. That helped us
It was
pin him
really
back
good.
deep.
He
It was
he
really
was
good.
the Crawshaw I wanted to see all season this week. He was really good.
Oddly enough, B, in my notes, it says the Crawshaw we needed to see. Exactly. So, seriously, on that basis, check this out. 3 punts, 58.3 average, one inside the 20, but as long, I know it got a bounce, a really good bounce, but 63 yards. Holy smokes, that helped us out a lot. The other thing I want to say is we started 2 true freshmen at safety.
Yeah, we did, including our 5th freshman starter of the season, Yahtzee.
Oh, guess what? The bill collector's coming due. He's coming due for his 20s.
So for
Touche.
anybody, let me fill in why I'm talking about that real
Yeah, go
quick.
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For anybody that maybe hasn't listened to the season preview episode, we did Keep It or Pitch It for the whole season, and one of the Keep It or Pitch It's was that 5 freshmen will start during the season. I'll be honest, I never expected it to happen by week 6, but here we go, and that was number 5. So there it is. And I kept that, and Randy pitched it, so that's why we're having a little fun with that one. Continue.
Bingo. So yeah, man, Castell obviously got beat, battered up a little bit in this game, and hopefully he'll have a good week of treatment and recovery. But Thornton, I gotta say, I know what you were talking about earlier in Oh My, as far as Thornton's hit. That was a solid hit, solid tackle. But true freshman, I mean, when we just came off last year having 2 of the oldest DBs in the nation, it seemed like, good Lord, old man and older man, Trey Dean and Bernie, so
Yeah.
that is what it is. I mean, I guess they were ready for the retirement home. No, but the only other thing I saw was in Gator Bait, and it might be a combo of visor throw, was just Jason Marshall. I know he got the raw end of the stick on one deal there, but on the one pass that they got lost on. But outside of that, I just for the way he was ranked, for his stats, for the way he looked,
Yep.
He got beat on a play, fine, no problem. But if you're a dog, if you're that guy, you're not just gonna wave your hands and give up. You had 3 other Gator defenders that were behind him on the
Full
play.
out. Yep, full out sprint.
Just went. Exactly. So all I'm saying is the effort, right? You can't teach it, you can't coach it. Either you have it or you don't, right? And so it's one of those things where I really wish he can just get it figured out. If it's something between his ears, fine. But outside of that, just really, really wish he can get that figured out. But outside of that, the other thing is we had 2 sacks, right? Loss of 13 yards. Really Sapp had one. Wingo, good to see Wingo in the backfield attacking.
Yeah, buddy.
Right?
Love seeing him do that. That's his strength for sure.
Right. And then we had a Uman sighting. So that's good. He's alive. He's there for half a sack, so that's okay. But again, the main thing is, in that orange and blue game, I know it's just an orange and blue game, but I really felt like we could have had a little bit more pressure up front. We need to dirty their quarterback's jersey. See, I'm a poet and I didn't even know it, but I really wish we had a little bit more pressure up front there. And the other thing is to that point, again, 1 out of 10 for third down. Not bad. Really, really good. Held them to 51 plays, 23 minutes time of possession. Again, the defense does all the right things. But I'll tell you what, if you limit of those 5 explosive plays that Vandy had, say over 20 yards, you take off 2 or 3 of them, the score is different, the mood's different going into South Carolina. And outside of that, your defense, instead of having a top 16 defense in the nation, we got probably a top 12 or 13 defense. Outside of that, good job defense, good job AA. A lot of good pieces to build on, a lot of good initiatives, a lot of youth, a lot of
Can
youth
you
out there.
imagine what this defense looks like next year with basically all the same guys?
2 more years. 2 more. No, anyways, but that's all I got for Gator Bait. B, how about you?
Love it. Love it. Good stuff, man. Yeah. So again, we'll start off with the stats. We talked about it. We do it every week, of course. So Seals QBR was actually 102.8. So as we said, anything over 100 is good. It's the second highest QBR we've allowed all season. Only the second one over 100 that we've allowed all season. The combination of Nate Johnson and whoever the other backup quarterback was for Utah, I can't remember now because he's not really playing anymore. But they combined for a 105 rating. So we still haven't allowed anything over 110, which is still pretty good when you look at it. But this was, we definitely let him probably get a higher number than he should have, to your point. As for yards per carry, so this one is going to vary drastically from what you go and look up online. Of course, so is the other one if you go and look it up. Because again, we took the sack yardage out here. We also took team rushing yardage out because we always take that out. So that's something we never include because it's really just like kneel downs and they aren't carries, right? They're not rushing attempts when those are in there. So at the end of the day, we want to try to get that out and get to a true yards per carry as best we possibly can. And to that end, yards per carry for them was 4.65. So that's definitely healthier than what we've kind of seen, but we haven't always been able to take out the sack yardage. So I think that's important to note on this particular one. So overall, still very, very good performance from the defense. Really good bounce back game. You said it. Really, in my mind, we only gave up 2 true big plays, right? That really mattered for anything that were going to, kind of lead to a score. I know there was another one that did lead to a score, but nonetheless, the 2 big ones that I'm referring to, of course, the 2, deep passes.
Yep.
One was fluky, man. That Marshall thing was fluky. He got his face mask grabbed. Refs missed the call. And to your point, shame on Jason for complaining to the refs and then jogging down the field, right? That was crap. He shouldn't have done that. He should have stuck with the play. It didn't get called. Run it out, right? Catch that guy because he could have caught him. And he didn't even try. And so shame on him for that. However, the play shouldn't have even happened. It was a face mask penalty, clear as day. You can see it on the replay. I watched it like 5 times this afternoon. So there's no question. I mean, even though his back's to the thing, you can see his head get turned down and the hands right there from Will Shepherd. So, I mean, it just bad no call. We'll get into a lot of other bad no calls in a bit here. But that one, again, is fluky. It's 85 yards. Take 85 yards off their total. Now even that one play is totally different, right? Totally different as far as the scheme of this thing goes. So, it is what it is. Excuse me. Much better tackling. I couldn't find a mess tackle number. It's really hard to find. I think you got to pay for what I'm finding is I think you got to pay for Pro Football Focus advanced stats, premium stats as they call them, in order to get that information. So I couldn't find it anywhere. If I see it shared again later, like I did before, I'll definitely throw that out there. But I didn't see a whole lot of missed tackles. It was pretty clean tackling game. They looked much, much better as far as the execution piece on that goes, and it was really, really good to see. Solid coverage in the secondary overall, right? Definitely had a blown one on the Jakeem Jackson bomb. That's 65-yarder, right? That was a tough one. But at the end of the day, overall, the coverage was really solid and much, much better play from the linebackers. Shamar James was everywhere this game. Man, he was all over the place. And not that he really wasn't as bad during Kentucky. It was really Scooby that dropped the ball on that. But Scooby looked better. Again, not a tremendous number of tackles, but he was doing the right things. So that was good to see. Interesting. Vandy ran a lot of gap runs. So there's 2 different ways you can kind of run the ball. One is gap running, power running, whatever you want to call it. And the other is you're going to be your zone running plays where you're going to, set zone blocking with the offensive line versus gap blocking. And that's where the terminology comes from. So with a gap run, you're just trying to go to a single spot, right? There isn't really kind of an area and you can pick a hole or kind of, see what's going on, in kind of different areas with the line because they're blocking all to a certain zone of the field. With gap running, you're trying to open up a specific gap. And that's what Vandy runs. It's the same thing Kentucky ran on us for 300 plus yards last week. In this game, Vandy ran for 64 yards. So bravo, a little round of applause. Vast improvement against that style of running. I understand Ray Davis wasn't back there. I get it. However, at the end of the day, we were out of position a lot of times last week. We were not out of position this week. That was good to see. That is solid. Much better fundamentals. great job getting on that this week in practice. It was evident that was covered extensively by AA. And man, the guy just continues to impress. Again, we mentioned it. It's a young group of guys out there. I mean, for crying out loud, our leading tackler on the team is a sophomore. Come on. Like, I think our fourth leading tackler is a freshman, true freshman. Like, I mean, young team out there. They're going to have games that are off. I think more often than not, though, you're going to see games where they're on, which is what we saw this week, which is great to see. Couple blown coverages, as I mentioned. One was by Jakeem Jackson. I really thought he redeemed himself after that, though. Really shook that off. Really good coverage in the end zone to break up a pass. And then another one where he didn't, it looked like he broke it up, but then I watched the replay again and the tight end actually just dropped it for that fourth down play. But you know what? Jakeem was still all over it. It was perfect coverage. So, I mean, at the end of the day, really nice to see him be able to bounce back from that. The other blown coverage was actually by I'm not calling Marshall's a blown coverage because that was a penalty. The other one was actually by Taraja Mitchell on the second Vandy TV. That one was pretty bad.
Yeah.
He totally missed his assignment and just the guy just blew right by him, and you could see him just turning around like, oh crap, that's me. A lot of stuff that we were way too familiar with seeing as Gators fans over the past few years with linebackers and coverage. I think there's a reason that Tada doesn't play that much, and that's probably it. He's not good in coverage. He's a great tackler. He's got a nose for the run game, but man, he can't cover. So yeah, that's something that's definitely an issue. But I think that overall, you're going to have mistakes. You can't defend everything perfectly, right? But we were really pretty good. So there's been a lot of talk, I'm going to change the gear here for a second, about the lack of turnovers that the Gators are producing. A lot of talk about this, right? We have a negative turnover margin on the year. That's true. Though it doesn't take into account turnovers on downs, which we have quite a few of, actually. But that's not where I'm going with this. We've recovered one fumble on the season. Do you know how many we forced?
5.
9.
Oh, nice.
We have forced 9 fumbles in 6 games, just only to happen to have recovered 1. Some very unlucky bounces. I would argue that if that continues to happen, those bounces, law of probability says they start bouncing our way. So this turnover thing is not as bad as a lot of people may have been thinking. I know it hasn't come in the form of interceptions. I understand that, but remember that Jason Marshall dropped a wide open interception last week, and we've had others that could have been picked too. So we're not out of position. We're not misplaying. We're not in a position where we aren't generating at least the opportunity for a turnover. We just haven't gotten the ball. So, and I know you can say, okay, there's a hunger there or whatever else. Sometimes it's just the bounce. Sometimes it's just the bounce. And really, it's been the bounce. There was one this game. This game, there were actually 3 in, and there was one early that we really should have gotten. I cannot believe the running back got it back. I mean, the ball was out early and he was in the air, and it just happened to bounce right back to him. Like, super unlucky for us. It really should have been another fumble recovery in this game. But anyway, just thought that was a fascinating stat that we had actually forced 9 fumbles this season. Did you have any idea about that one? I'm curious.
No, did not.
Yeah, I was floored when I saw it. I actually went back to check to make sure it was right. I went game by game in the box score, and it is correct. So just interesting stuff. Overall, I just continue to be impressed with AA's schemes and the coaching that he's doing to get the players to execute them week in and week out. I mean, we've been really solid overall as a unit. And yeah, I probably can't say enough good stuff continuously about the defense. Are they going to have things they're going to, miss and mess up on? Of course, right? That's going to happen. But overall, this is a solid unit, and really looking forward to what the future holds. It could be pretty gnarly next year if everything, kind of holds the status quo right now. So with that, we'll wrap up Gator Bait, and we will move on to the visor throw. See how dirty these get this week. Mine's going to stay pretty clean. I don't have a whole lot here. Penalties. There's definitely some calls here that I have issue with. I also have some issues with some no calls, but we'll get to that. Overall, 8 penalties for 70 yards. That's not acceptable at home. That's not getting it done. Really, it's not acceptable anywhere. I shouldn't just say at home. It's not acceptable at all, but it's certainly not acceptable at home, right? I also recognize, aside from the officiating question marks that we had, that the O-line is missing 2 starters, and that could account for a couple of the false starts Though I know one of them was on a starter. It was on Mazkua. But the other one was on Slaughter, I think. And I think there was a third too. And I don't remember who that one was on. But it's still got to get better. At the end of the day, that's not an acceptable thing. Billy talked about it. He keeps talking about it. I'd like to see him do something about it, but no. At the end of the day, it's just something that's got to improve there. So that's my first one. I do have play calling in the red zone on here. Now, I don't have it in terms of saying that it was ineffective. I don't have it in terms of saying that, I think it was a huge problem, but it was still a little conservative, right? The Ricky play wasn't. I like the jet sweep to Trey for the touchdown. Those were fine, but there was still a lot of times. There was one drive in particular, first long drive of the second half. So not the first drive. I think it was the second drive we made. We had some penalty help on that drive, or we don't score there at all, much less a touchdown. So, and again, I understand penalties are penalties, and we should have gotten them. They were the correct calls, but our offense was really sputtering on that drive. It was not good. It was very conservative, a lot of runs. In fact, I think that might have been the drive where we had like 8 runs and 1 pass, because there was a drive where that happened, which is just ridiculous. But we don't score on that drive, I don't think, period, without the help of some penalties. That's not what you want to see. As far as kind of like a drive that's important, early third quarter drive, right? That's a time. And I feel like that's the time where Billy gets the tightest, is early third quarter with a lead. Man, he just, he bottles that up. And that's something that I think has got to get addressed. And then the last thing I've got is Ricky Fair catching a punt inside the 8-yard line. I understand you put your feet on the 10. I understand you can move a little bit. But he got spotted at the 7, and I'll be honest with you, I thought he caught it at the 6. That's too deep. That's too deep to be catching a punt. You should be faking that. You should be letting it go over your head. And I'm almost wondering if Ricky knows how to do that at this point, because if we've called it out all year. And I know that's a nitpicky thing, because overall special teams was pretty good this game. No real blunders. It was really pretty fine. But that one really got me. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, don't catch that ball. Let it go. Let it go. So anyway, that's what I got for Visor throw. Nothing too crazy. What do you got? What's your beef for the week?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. That's good. That's relatively clean.
Yeah, it's really not bad. The visor only needs a little spray and wash, and throw it in the washer there.
Oh, dude, not even spray and wash. I think you just can get away with one Tide Pod. You're good. So my thing was explosive plays to Vandy, but more specifically on Vandy, the 85-yard bomb. And again, I know it's a face mess, but I just wanted to see Jason respond a little bit differently to it.
For sure.
Hoskins, we made him look a little bit better than he is. He's probably a 2-star. We made him look like a 4-star on some of those plays. For the 27-yard reception, for the 21-yard reception. So it's little things like that. I kind of wanted some of those safeties to make an example out of him, if you know what I mean. For all my Italian friends out there, I guess maybe that's what I meant. But outside of that, like you said, man, the defense has done some really good things. There's a reason why number 16th in the nation. There's a reason why the defense is giving up 140 plus less yards a game than a year ago. There's reasons why. 8 penalties for 70 yards. You said it. 3 of them were false starts. Yes, 1 on a starter. But that's the other thing too. When you look at the penalties we've had previously this year, right? Utah, 9 for 46. McNeese, 5 for 35 yards. Tennessee, 5 for 30 yards. Charlotte, 5 for 35 yards. So, okay, at the Swamp, 5, right? Kentucky was a blunder, 10 for 86. But here at Vandy, to go 8 for 70, that's 3 to 4 too many. So really need to tighten that up. As far as I know it was a rhetorical question, like, what are we going to do about that? Billy needs to do. Well, yeah, I don't think Billy has any years of eligibility left, so he's not lining up. So I think it's one of those things where he's got to go to his line coaches and say, guys, listen, we've talked about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Yeah. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of answering questions about it. Fix it now. Real simple.
Agreed.
So agreed. Downfield. So when we look at Vandy and their secondary and their backs, and it's like, I thought we had the opportunity to test a couple things. I tell you what. Khalil Jackson, legacy player. We know his father and uncle. It was a well thrown ball, but it was a banana pass. And I remember in high school, throwing banana passes means they got picked off a lot. And guess what?
Yep.
He got picked. If that ball had a little bit more touch on it, and I don't know, was traveling at about 5 to 7 miles per hour, a little faster, straighter line, touchdown. Or guess what? If you want to throw a banana pass like that, no problem. Put it out another 8 to 10 yards, touchdown. So again, are we going to see another opportunity? If that's some creativity coming out of the old, Billy Napes, his little hat there, cool. However, execution. Maybe we should try it more in practice. Get a little bit more comfortable with it, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
So outside of that, I thought that was fine, but really good to see some of the variation in the play calling, more than we've seen in the past. So
Yes.
is he feeling more comfortable now with that? We've got some weapons back and Trey's healthy again. At the end of this game, he seemed to be fine. So and Graham, he passed concussion, he cleared concussion protocol. He should be fine, maybe a little bit sore. So do we practice? Do we work on a couple things this week going into South Carolina? I don't know. But outside of that, like you, not a lot of visor throws, relatively calm for the week, and we move on.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna switch it up and go first on the culture segment, because I think you have something you want to address. So I want to let you get to that and kind of close that out. So I'm sorry, I skipped right over recruiting. So let's back it up and go to hatchlings real quick.
Move back, Utah. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. So I have one dot point here, and it's just on Jordan Seaton, who's the 5-star O lineman that is currently at IMG. He was in attendance for the game along with several other prospects, but really good feedback from him initially, and loved seeing him spend some time with both Warfel and Lagway. I thought that was great to see him getting that influence, right? Getting that love. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. Lagway continues to be a great recruiter. Maybe it'll be his calling after he graduates, because man, that kid's tearing it up. I love it, and that I thought was really great. That's really all I have. No developments as of yet from that or any of the other visits. No commitments. There is one expected, I think, later this month, but not a whole lot later. I don't think it's from. God, I keep blanking on the kid's name when I'm thinking about it. But anyway, it's one of the guys from Daytona that we've been targeting. He's a 5-star, so we'll see what happens there. But that's pretty much it that I have for recruiting. Do you have anything there, or pretty much same?
Yeah, no. So, but besides Lagway being a good recruiter, how about the student section and the sign they made for Seaton? So right now, according to On3, Seaton is 56% slated to go to Ohio State University, and the Gators are somewhere around 10%. After this week, allegedly, that number is good. The number for Ohio State is going to come down. The number for Florida is going to go up. So that's going to be good. So
love it.
So that's going to be great. Elijah Griffin, number 2, recruit the nation, right? D lineman out of Savannah, Georgia. He was there, so that was good.
Yeah.
Solomon Thomas, right? 5-star, number 21 overall, number 4 offensive tackle in the nation. He was there. Antoine Hill from Warner Robins, Georgia, right? 4-star QB, number 6 in the QB position. He was there. It's his second trip to Gainesville. This first was when the Gators beat Tennessee in the Swamp, and he says he loves the atmosphere and hopes to be back for more games. And then the last one was a surprise. Mekhi Burrow, we know he decommitted a few weeks ago, right?
From Georgia, right?
Right. He got homesick, whatever, and Billy said, no problem, it's fine, it's mutual. But guess what? Someone was back in the Swamp on Saturday.
Interesting.
Someone rated his visit 10 out of 10. Someone said he felt, quote unquote, I felt right at home, although I thought it would be awkward because of my decommitment. It actually wasn't. And I kept getting told by the coaches, their position is, hey, we're not going anywhere. And if I were a coach, if I were recruiting in that system for 6'5", 350 pounds, I'm not going anywhere either. We're right here, buddy. So anyways, That's all I got to round out hatchlings, bud.
Nice. Good deal. Yeah, some definitely continues to be a strength of what Napier's doing and what this team is kind of looking to get to in the future. The future continues to look really, really bright. I understand the present may not be all that, Gator fans have kind of necessarily been used to. But I don't think it's all bad, certainly as far as the present goes, and the future is really, really interesting. So we'll see what continues to happen and how this class rounds out, especially see what happens as we go down this gauntlet of the second half of this schedule. Because
Yes.
we've got some tough games, and I'm not sure how it's going to end up. So we'll see how that affects things as we go. So now to Pride of the Sunshine and talk a little team culture here. The culture to me seemed, continue solid as it kind of always is, right? I loved seeing Napier come out. So this is the stuff you don't always get to see on TV, right? It's one of the nice things, Randy brought it up. When you're there, you can kind of see the sideline more and look at what you want to look at, right?
Yeah.
Napier coming out to congratulate guys after big plays on offense and defense, really getting out on the field, and you see him just smiling and come over there and clapping the helmet. And sometimes it wasn't even the guy who made the biggest play. It might have been somebody who set a block and he loved it. I mean, really, really good stuff. You can tell that he is, just a really good dude, and good to see a little passion out of him on the sidelines, because I don't mind his calm demeanor for the most part, but you still got to get fired up sometimes, and so it was really good to see that in a positive light.
Yep.
AA absolutely continues to be the Energizer Bunny that you have him labeled at on that sideline, man. He is never not bouncing around. He is just going. It's ridiculous. Guy can start a workout video when he's done coaching. It's crazy. And then just overall, team looked very cohesive, well bonded for the whole game, right? I saw some stuff on TV for this, interestingly enough. They were showing Mertz on the sideline once he got pulled. He wasn't just sitting over on the sidelines not doing anything. He was up, he was talking to his teammates, he was just involved, engaged, right? That bond is really clear with him, certainly, but I saw other guys as well too. I see that as really being a stronger and stronger unit as time goes along, and it's good to see. So that's all I got for Pride of the Sunshine. So I'll turn it over to you and tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, man. So really, really good points all around. The other thing, I think I've seen it more in this game than I have in other games. Well, maybe I saw it a lot in the Tennessee game. I saw it a lot in the McNeese game, but more specifically is when there's a play or after a play, if it goes well, doesn't go well ever, Graham will go around to each offensive lineman and just smack them or tap their hand, whatever the case might be. And I want to say in this game, obviously he was out without two starters on the O-line. I want to say that leadership side of Graham is just really, really showing through, because knowing that you've got some guys on the line, not experience wise. Damian George was asked to switch to the other side, and he's still going around, constantly dabbing them up, talking to them, getting them going, communicate. And Billy did say Graham's a good communicator. So that's really good to see that leadership aspect of him come out, because when you have a young team, when you have guys that are not in the right position, at the end of the day, all they want to do is they want to do their job. They don't want to mess up. They don't want to mess up. They don't want to mess up. And then what happens? They mess up, and the crowds, and there's all this negative things associated with them. But they've got their quarterback, their leader, right there, just going, "Hey, stay with me. You're doing good. Thanks. Good job. Keep going." And those little builders, right? Those little momentum builders, psychologically, what is it doing for continuity? What is it doing for confidence? So, and I saw Graham just do more and more and more of it this game than I have. And again, I might not have seen as much in other games, but I just, for whatever reason, I honed in on that a lot this game. Speaking of leadership, Gator Made. People might or might not know what this is, but at the end of the day, Gator Made is something unique to the University of Florida, brought by Billy Napier, right? So he did get it from Clemson and old Dabo up there. But Gator Made is a holistic, player-focused, and purpose-driven initiative to develop football scholarship athletes during their time at UF. Keyword, develop, right? These young men, yes, they're athletes, but Billy's more focused on them as men first, as leaders first, as thought leaders, right? In addition to being an example, a role model, a father figure, all these different things that I think a lot of people come, it's like, in in talking to a baseball player, you go, hey, so what are you studying? Would you come here to study baseball? No, I know you're no, I know you're playing baseball, but what are you studying? Baseball. So and I get it. As a student athlete, it's more like athlete student, right?
Yep.
The athletics come
Agreed.
first, but to see what they're doing to develop these young men. I mean, they're taking trips to Nike headquarters. They're involved in executive meetings. They're going to tour real estate facilities. They're learning about business. They're learning about economy and not just, macro, MAR 3100. They're doing it on a business setting, and the university and the young lady who's been put as a point person in charge of some of this, really, really phenomenal stuff, because these men are actually, whether they stay their entire time, whether they leave early, whatever the case might be, these are certain things that you learn that are so invaluable to the development of a human being, much less a man, an athlete, a leader. And so to me, to what they're trying to build it, and this is just the beginning phases of it, right? It's only a year and a half old. So to see what it has done in that amount of time, and to see what they plan on doing with it to unveil more and more and expose these young men to more, I think is amazing, because when you look at what in Gator Nation, I know winning cures all. It does. We had a great run from '05 to 10. A great run, but we know the off the field issues, we know the personnel issues, we know some of the other issues that were lingering, right? And to know that now it's gotten to the point where the program has been cleaned up, the extracurriculars, the off the field activities, the different expectation out of these men, that quite frankly, when I look at athletes, I look at these God-given abilities and talents that they have, the speed, the quickness, the muscle mass, the stature. The world is their oyster. And to know that we're going to come alongside them, the UAA, the university is going to come alongside and develop them as men and not just exploit their talents as an athlete, I think that that's a phenomenal thing. So I love what that program is doing, and can't wait to see what more is in store as they continue to develop and bring new, unique experiences for these men to observe. So
Love it.
that's it.
Love it. Absolutely great stuff. There's a lot of talk about the Gator standard, I feel like, and I won't get into a whole diatribe on that as to what, I think that is or isn't in regards to football. But I'll tell you one thing it always was for me growing up is that we had, we kind of mentioned it in an episode before, but we had players that were actually decent humans too. And to see Billy prioritize that and put the focus on that with this program, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And I think it really matters and can really also help, do things to build this team as well. Right. So great stuff. Thanks for sharing that. I think that was a great point to bring up and to talk about. I know we discussed you wanted to bring it out, and I love it. I love it. Good stuff. So from there, we're going to move to some not good stuff in our officiating segment and move back. You suck. And these refs, they did suck. I know that's not what that chant is for, which I don't think they do that chant anymore. It's funny. I think it's offensive or something. But
Yeah, it
but
is. It is.
I don't know.
It was negated. Yes.
Yeah, it's too bad because I love that thing, man. I thought it was hilarious. But man, these refs, we've been pretty clean. We've been pretty clean so far this year. Couple here and there as we talked about it, right? Wasn't a couple things in Kentucky, but at the end of the day, probably wasn't going to make a difference. And for the most part, other than that, it really hasn't been bad. Well, that all changed. Okay, here we go. I got to get through these, and I got a bunch of them. So I'm gonna go through all my call outs, and then I'd love to get your take on it from that expert opinion standpoint that you're going to have. So first things first, already mentioned it. No call on the face mask of Jason Marshall on the Vandy TD. Why did I say TV there? Regardless of Marshall's effort after that was a huge missed call. That play doesn't stand if that play's called properly. I mean, it's clearly a face mask. No question about it. So that's number one. I found the roughing the passer call on Mertz questionable. Or I'm sorry, not on Mertz, excuse me, on Seals, that we were called for.
Yeah.
It was technically correct. I'll give you that. He shouldn't have been hit that hard after, releasing the ball with a couple of steps from, I think it was Cam Jackson that got him, or maybe it was Caleb Banks. Um, but he shouldn't have been hit that hard, after that. But I see this call not made on Mertz all the time. All the time. And there was actually an example of that later in the game. We had one where it was very questionable, and I thought he absolutely, applied the same standard that this hit did, and they didn't flag it. So, technically, I can't say it was the wrong call, but man, that was a dicey one. That's one that definitely didn't have to get flagged. He popped him. He didn't, tackle him. It really wasn't anything that was that egregious. Didn't hit him high, nothing like that. So I took issue with that one. I didn't think it was the right thing to do there to throw that flag. Then we get into the really bad ones. First of all, I'll call out, and this isn't even on my sheet. We had multiple holds against our D-line that were not called. I don't have specific examples, but there were at least 3 blatant ones that I saw that were not flagged, and they were bad. And, we talked about getting pressure on the quarterback and how important that is. Well, it's hard to do that when you're getting held and not called for it. So that, I hope, gets better, especially next week in an opportunity where we have to really get some good pass rush. We'll talk about that later. But that was not good. Then there was the PI call on Moten early in the second half. I'm still trying to figure this one out. Moten is there, facing the ball, trying to make a play on the ball, and because he was in the receiver's way on the route, I think, is the logic there, I guess. I don't really know. I'm hoping you can shed some light on that for me, because I don't even know how that could have been a flag to begin with. He was clearly making a play on the ball, and yes, the receiver ran into him and actually prevented him from getting the pick, but how is that PI on Moten? I'm just floored by that flag. It was worst flag of the game, in my opinion, by far. Well, I say that, not by far, because there was an intentional grounding call on Mertz late in the third that he was so far outside the tackle box, he was beyond the hash marks, and they called it intentional grounding. Can't be grounding if you're not in the tackle box, unless there's a piece of that rule that I don't know. So again, maybe you can clarify for me, but he was way out of the box. And just for those that don't know, the tackle box is the setup between the tackles, right? So your offensive line is your center, your guards on each side, and then your tackles on each side. And there's a box that you draw around that, an imaginary one. And if you're outside that, you can throw the ball away anywhere you want. There doesn't have to be a receiver in the area. So I'm pretty confused how that happened too. So overall, several missed calls and quite a few poor calls from my viewpoint. Not happy with these refs. Very poor. There's my real visor throw of the day. What do you got? What's your take on this stuff? And if you would give me any clarity I need on those 2 I mentioned at the end, because if I'm off, I want to know.
I don't disagree with a single one. Okay.
Cool.
So first is, again, bang bang plays happen, things happen. But when you see a defender get an offensive player get that much separation on the defender, I'm not talking 2-3 yards. We're talking 6 to 7 yards of separation.
Yeah.
And the defender is left shaking his head. And a side judge is, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 yards away. How do you do not catch that is beyond me. It really is beyond me. No idea.
Yep.
None.
Agreed.
None. It was Vandy's 4th possession. It was a 3rd and 7. Okay. Not a single hold on the offensive lineman. There were 2 different holds on 2 different offensive linemen that could have been called. You have the referee, David Smith, the referee, and you've got either the field judge or a back judge or umpire, whoever's back there. But again, there's 8 on the field, right? There's 8 on the field in college. In high school, we've got 5. 8 on the field plus the eyes in the sky. But 2 different holds going on. No call, no call. The interesting thing is we were told that blow to the head or below the knees, because you want to help the concussion and you want to help out the lower leg injury. No problem. When he got sacked, he was pushed in his chest and pushed down. No weight was put on him. So that's the thing. Shot to the head, below the knees, and weight. Does the defender put his weight into the quarterback, onto the quarterback to crush? That's how a lot of collarbones get snapped, right?
See Anthony Richardson. Go ahead.
Bingo. None of that happened. None of that happened, right? And I agree with you. That's Mertz has gotten some terrible hits, nothing. So I get it. Ball's released, stay off the quarterback. But when he released that ball, the hit came less than a second later. So guess what? Forward momentum, but he didn't throw his body on him, didn't go for the head, didn't go for the legs, pushed him in the chest. Shouldn't have been. Unacceptable. David Smith, referee, SEC referee, unacceptable.
Call him out.
Continues to, I mean, this is the Premier League in college football, but yet, guess what? Disappointing officiating continues in the SEC and yet to be addressed.
Yep.
I'm sorry. For the amount you get compensated per game with all the resources you have, unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Beginning of third quarter, yeah. 2nd and 1, Moten. So here's the thing: Moten beats the receiver on that play. So in space, Moten's occupying space. So he did not take an advantage by displacing the receiver to occupy that space. He just got to the ball first, right? If you notice where that flag came from left center field about 17 yards away.
I did not notice that, but it doesn't surprise me. That's definitely the wrong guy making that call.
That reminded me of my back judge in a high school game. My back judge has an arm. Holy smoke, Sean Morrison, you got an arm. You can throw that sucker about 20 yards. But he was in no place to make that call. That should have been a no call all day long, 100%. Intentional grounding. Mertz, so this is what's tough, B, because there are different rules for college than high school. One of the different rules, for example, in high school, you're allowed to face guard. The defender does not have to turn around when it comes to defending a pass. So for DPI, intentional grounding, the rule for NFHS has been changed the past couple of years, right? As far as what is acceptable intentional grounding, is the receiver in the area? Was the quarterback ranging outside the tackle box? From my perspective, Mertz was outside, but for whatever reason, they felt like, oh, he wasn't outside enough, and there was not even a receiver that was within range. So guess what? We're going to flag it. And the other thing I'm going to bring up is the C word. Again, things happen, bang, bang play, human eyes, errors are made, mistakes are made. No problem. No problem. But can we get a little bit of consistency?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
A little bit of consistency.
So let me ask you real quick. Did you think he was in the tackle box? Because I don't see how he was anywhere near it.
If he was close, from what I saw in my perspective, again, the other thing that I know you have the ability to do is pick up a flag after you consult with your other officials.
Yep.
Right? Pick the flag up, move on.
Yep. Agreed.
But that's it. That's it. I'm going to leave that. Move back, you suck. It's over. It is what it is. Sorry for the call outs, but just some unfortunate ones today.
No,
for Saturday.
For sure. And I think we just hope it gets better next week and goes back to kind of the way it's been so far this year. And again, I'll say it's been really good so far this year for the most part. A few things here or there, but it really hasn't been bad. And I know we're going to sit here and pick it apart, and that's what we do. But at the end of the day, that was easy to pick apart. I mean, there was way too much going on. So hopefully it gets better next week. All right. So let's go to our wrap up here. Let's finish things out. So first off, where do you feel like we're at with the team and going forward here? Let's get your thoughts on that to start.
Would have liked a more convincing win. Again, it's still a win. It's Vandy. We avenged loss from last year. Yes. My hope is that over the next 2 decades, we go 20-0 against Vandy, right? That's the hope. It's 38-14. It's 38-14. That's not a bad win. It's a good win. You know, I remember Spurrier back in the days talking about, you know, the fan base being upset that they didn't beat Kentucky by 50. They've only beat them by 44. So I get it. A win is a win. I feel good about that. It was a good bounce back against Kentucky. It was good to have home cooking, good to be in the swamp for that nice later afternoon game. It was homecoming. Everybody was hyped for that. So dig it. Going to South Carolina, I was glad to hear Billy say in the press conference this morning after talking with the leadership team they are going to change their schedule.
Yep.
They're getting into Columbia earlier. They're changing the sleep schedule for the Wednesday night before leaving for Columbia. So that's going to be different. They're going to get there. They're going to change around the on-field times, the walkthrough times, the meeting times. Hopefully that's going to have an
Yep.
impact. So that's going to be good. I mean, here's the thing, man. Nothing against Spencer Rattler, good guy, whatever. Like I said before, I didn't think he could handle the big lights at Oklahoma, and he started off well last year, but then he started to quickly fade. If for those of you who don't remember, we had a 38-6 rout last year in the
Yeah, we
swamp.
did.
And that game was over in the first quarter. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people said, oh, it's just the first quarter. They can come back. It's only 3 scores. It was over in the first quarter.
Yeah, apparently when I come to Napier games, we score 38 points. That's 2 in a row. Just saying.
Hey, I dig it. All day, B, all day. So my hope is that we can play with the same intensity that we did last year. We hope that we don't give them any more motivation to avenge last year's loss by saying, no, we've got the Gators number. I feel like, if anything, Napier's got Beamer a little bit, right? I feel like he's got him scheme-wise. We know we have them personnel-wise. So how do we use it to our advantage? So I feel good about it. It's still going to be a tough game, SEC game. South Carolina's been pretty good in the trenches, right? We know we talked about SEC football and the lines making a big, big difference. So my hope is our attitude is right, our mindset is right, and if we can focus on those things, and again, going back to Napier, if we are prepared mentally, we're prepared emotionally, and we're prepared physically, there's no reason why we cannot put a good product out on that field. So
Agreed.
we're going to go in there. We're going to silence the Gamecocks. We're going to come out with a win and march on.
I like it. I like it. I hope you're right. We really need to. It feels to me like we're pretty much where we thought we would be, right? If you looked at the team, kind of how we're performing, everything else. I mean, maybe not the loss to Kentucky, but otherwise, you know, it kind of feels, or the way we lost. It's not necessarily that we lost; it's just the way we lost.
Yes.
But if you look at it, it kind of comes down to execution, right? If we talked about, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If we execute well against any team, we're going to keep it competitive, whether it's USC or any of the rest of the teams we have on the schedule. And we should have a decent chance to win the game. I wouldn't even rule us out against Georgia if we execute well, to be honest with you, with how well our defense is playing. I mean, I'm not ruling that out. And I know a lot of people are probably going to think I'm crazy, but it all goes to the execution that we have. And if we execute like we have in road games so far this year, and we continue to do that in road games, it's going to be a long last 6 games of the season for us.
Oh, yeah.
The second half is not going to be good because we got some tough stuff coming on the schedule. But the defense bouncing back in this game was very encouraging to me and very important. And I think we can lean on that on the road. And as long as that defense plays like they do, like they did more like against Utah on the road, for example, minus 1 big play, right? I really think we have a good chance against anybody we're playing. I also like how we match up with USC. You kind of mentioned it. Statistically, they're significantly better passing than running. That's good for our defense because it's significantly better against the pass than against the run, only because of the Kentucky game. But nonetheless, it's still pretty good against the run too. And that's a good matchup. But I also think that the way that their offensive line is structured, you know, you mentioned good in the trenches, good in the defensive trenches. Their offensive trenches have not been good. They've given up a ton of sacks. They are ranked in the bottom 5, I think I saw, like 120 something.
Right.
In sacks allowed. It's terrible. So now I know that North Carolina game to start the year with 9 is going to put you there and it's going to be hard to recover from, but they're still averaging like 4.5 a game. So they've had a lot more since then, right? To be through 5 games and 4.5 sacks. That's like what, 22 sacks in 5 games? That's a lot. That's a lot of sacks. So at the end of the day, I really think that that we have a really good chance. In this game, I like the matchup better than I liked against Kentucky for a lot of different reasons. And I think we got a shot here. And I think this is a big statement game. I think I'm going to go ahead and say this is a must win if we want to get over 500, because I don't think we can get over 500 if we don't win this game. And I'll leave it at that. That's how important I think this game is. But I think it's also one that we're really, you know, well set up for. And I just have this feeling that Napier might have a coaching edge over Beamer. I just have this feeling from last year's game. I mean, we demoralized that team, and you don't do that without really good play calling and really good, execution on stuff and kind of knowing what the other team's doing. You're not just going to shut down an SEC opponent, I don't care which one it is, and destroy them the way that we did last year. That was not, like you said, that game was over the first quarter. That game was ridiculous. So,
Yep.
having said that, let's move it on. Let's play a little keep it or pitch it. First off, results from last week. I'm not going to go through and read everything that we did. As far as the picks go, I'll just review them. I was 2-1 last week. Randy went 1-2. We were different on all three picks, so thus the opposite record there. And that brings us to 8-6 for the season and 6-8 respectively. So that's the breakdown of where we're at coming into this. So with that, let's get it started for keep it or pitch it for South Carolina. All right, number 1, UF third down defense ranks 9th in the country. 9th, top 10 third down defense. Love it.
Yep.
Whereas USC's ranks 103rd. Not good. Not good at all. They're not good on third down. However, USC has a slightly better third down conversion percentage than we do, 35.8 to 34.8. They're a percent higher than we are. But having said all of that, the keep it or pitch it will be that UF has a better third down conversion percentage than South Carolina does in this game. Keep it or pitch it.
So one of my keys to this game is making sure that we can get to 50% on third down. If we can get to 50% on third down, 52% even maybe, I don't know, by some miracle, and we can hold them to that mid-30s number, that's going to be a win all day long. So on that basis, I'm going to keep that.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to pitch it. I'm not convinced that this team has it in them yet to quite do what they need to do. Defensively, I feel solid about it. Defensively is the reason I think we would get this. I don't think we're getting anywhere near 50%. I'm gonna say that I would love that, but I don't see it. So I'm gonna say that, if we get this, it's because we held them under 30. That's going to be my take on it if we get it. But I'm pitching it. I think they'll do slightly better. They're the home team. We haven't been good on the road. I'm just going to say that I think they just outduel us. But I do think it's close, for the record. I don't think this is drastically different. It's probably pretty close to the season averages. And they just edge us out. So, all right, that's number 1. So yet again, we're different. Shocker.
Wow.
So South Carolina is allowing 4.4 sacks per game, as I mentioned. Florida will have at least 4 sacks against USC this week. Armstrong's going to dial that up and get it done. Keep it or pitch it.
Pitch.
All right. That's hilarious. I'm keeping it.
Wow.
Here we go. Here we go again, as usual. I think we get the 4. I
almost
set this at 5. I almost set this at 5 like I did against McNeese. But I just thought that was a little too aggressive for a road game. So I put it at 4. And I think 4 is the number. I don't think we go over that, but I think we can get 4. This offensive line is porous for them against the pass. They pass more than they run, so we'll have more opportunities. I think we're going to get it done. It will be interesting to see. So there we go, yet again. All right, number 3.
Wow.
It's so funny that we're always opposed on these. That one week when we were the same, there must have been a full moon or something, man. USC has the 15th ranked passing offense, as mentioned, in the country at averaging 312 yards a game. We will hold USC to under 250 yards of passing offense this weekend. So we had that kind of similar stat last week against Vandy. I said we were just going to go over. You said we were under. Turns out we went way over. So keep that as a thought process on this, I guess. But regardless, keep it or pitch it. We will hold them under 250 yards of passing offense.
And that's the thing, right? You take away one of those explosive plays, we hold Vandy under it. So I tell you
That's true. That's true. Fair point.
On that basis, solely on that basis, I will keep it.
I'm pitching it.
Oh man.
Too funny, man. I swear. And again, we've said this before, we'll say it again. We do not talk about this stuff beforehand. I have no idea what he's picking. He has no idea what I'm picking. And yet again, we are completely at odds. I love it. I think it's great. And we're only 2 picks apart on the season, so it's not like any one of us is really right that much more often.
No.
We'll see what happens this week. It'll be good to see. So with that, again, just want to say our thank you again to everybody that's been listening and continues to do so. We just continue to have a blast doing this, and really just love to just talk about this and have a conversation about Gator football and all the things good, bad, and otherwise, right? So really, really loving it. Continue to enjoy doing it, and thank you to everyone for your continued support.
Ditto. 100%. Have a great week of practice. Have a great week, Gator Nation. Let's get riled up for Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The USC of the South, we'll call them, right? But no, here's hoping for a win this week, and here's hoping for a better game this week. I really, really want to see this team execute better. So here's hoping that that's what we see, and we'll see what happens, and we'll certainly be back to talk to you about it next week. So with that, wherever you are and whenever you may be listening, thanks for taking the time, and we'll see you around, Gator Nation.